Hello and welcome to Doctor Who in Mind, episode 5. I'm Stephen, I'm a Doctor Who fan, and I suffer from depression. And those are the two topics I cover in these vlogs. Now, a little bit later in this episode, we'll be looking at 1979 story, The Creature from the Pit, starring Tom Baker. But here's something I recorded earlier up at Lincoln Cathedral.
One of the most major things about depression is how you cope with the working day. Now, I'm quite lucky. The company I work for have been very understanding about that. For example, a few days ago, I was having a particularly bad day. I knew it was a bad day before I went into work because I'd woke up feeling not good. I knew it was a bad day. And I told my manager at work that I wasn't feeling that good that day, but I was functional. And there was no need for any special allowances to be made for me. But although in fact they did offer to let me do what they thought was a slightly easier job that day, but I declined. I preferred to do what I normally do, not least because the time passes more quickly that way than what the alternative was. But anyway, the point is, there was a safety net for me, and it is just so important if you're working with depression that the company knows how you're feeling, because you can't keep it all bottled up. And another thing that they've made clear to me at work is that if things ever get too much for me during the day and I need to go and talk to someone, then there are people available, either my manager or the occupational health representative. So there's that safety net as well, and that's also very important to get through the day. I'm just going to stand aside a minute and show you what's behind me. Cute, isn't it? And there's another one round here. There we go. That's perhaps my favourite feature on the outside of the cathedral. It's quite a modern addition, as you can tell by the recent stonework. If you look closer, what you'll see is, I hope you can see that, you can see the coin in its mouth. So money isn't everything, and it's always important to put your health first, and that's what I do at work. So really, the point I'm trying to get across is that if you suffer from depression or any other mental health issues for that matter, don't be afraid to ask for or find out what help is available at work, because all reputable companies will have some sort of plan or policy in place to help you. Now, I'm aware I'm speaking obviously from a British perspective. I don't know what the situation is like in other countries, but I can only imagine it's improving all around the world, whatever country you're in, as more and more people become aware of mental health issues. Okay, well, that's all from Lincoln Cathedral. I'll hand you back to my future self, or is it my past self, one or the other, and we'll talk about the creature from the pit.
Okay, Doctor Who time, so that can only mean one thing. And this is going to be quite a challenge because Tom Baker, I think, is the heaviest action figure among the Doctors. But, let's see. Oh, it's time to talk about Doctor Who. I've got the Doctor in my hat. I have to keep very, very, very still, or he'll fall out and go splat. Woo! See, he will fall out and go splat if I don't keep very, very still. Okay. Right. The creature from the pit. Well, my relationship with this story goes back a fair way, right back to when I was about 10 or 11 and first collecting Doctor Who novelisations. And I've still got my copy of The Creature from the Pit with Tom Baker looking rather startled there. And this was the 12th Doctor Who book I ever bought. I can list them in the order I got them, but only up as far as number 12. Don't ask me to go further than 12. But I know the order I got the first 12 I bought in. 1, Horns of Nyman. 2, Death to the Daleks. 3, Destiny of the Daleks. 4, The Giant Robot, which was a novelisation of robots. 5, The Power of Kroll. 6, Enlightenment. 7, Day of the Daleks. 8, The Space War, which was a novelisation of Frontier in Space. 9, The Crusaders, which was a novelisation of The Crusade. 10, The Three Doctors. 11, The Daleks. And 12, Creature from the Pit. Okay, so I've always wondered about the title for this one. It's called The Creature from the Pit, which I know why it's called that. It's meant to sound very sort of B movie, like, you know, Creature from the Black Lagoon, that sort of thing. But the creature isn't from the pit. It would be more logical to call it The Creature in the Pit. But it isn't. It's a creature from the pit, so we've got to go with that. Now, this is the third of 4 stories written for Doctor Who by David Fisher, who was one of my favourite Doctor Who writers of the Tom Baker era. And what we know about David Fisher from various interviews he gave during his life was that he liked to write really strong, some might say domineering, and slightly dotty female characters. And he said these were sort of based on exaggerations of his aunt during his childhood. I mean, you could just imagine, say, in the 1930s, you've got little infant David Fisher, you know, sat down the family dinner table with his Aunt Amelia, his Aunt Vivian, his Aunt Lamia, his Aunt Stella, his Aunt Adrasta, his Aunt Corella, and his Aunt Mina. I mean, that's the stuff that Roald Dahl would have killed to write about, that sort of family setup. But seriously though, 2 of those great female characters are in the story, and Adrasta and Corella. And I'll come on to them in a moment because they're played by 2 notable guest stars for the series. But first, I just want to let's get rid of the elephant in the room. The design of the creature. Now, a lot of people talk about the unfortunate design of the creature. I don't really want to go into that because I want to keep this show, my vlog, completely family friendly. But when I say the creature design is unfortunate, you all know what I'm talking about if you've seen the episode, so we're not going any further on that. Now, coming back to the Lady Adrasta, the main villain of the piece, I mean, she is just played absolutely wonderfully by Myra Francis, who sadly died, I think it was a little bit earlier this year. anyway, it's a wonderful performance from her. She's sort of icy cold, completely in control, right up to the point where she isn't. I mean, she's very. I mean, you would not cross her, and if you do, you get thrown into the pits, obviously. But when things start to go awry for her, and she starts to sort of fall apart, and you see a completely another side to it. I mean, she's sort of classic bully who, when challenged and stood up to, just completely falls apart. And both aspects of his character are just played wonderfully by Myra Francis. Now, the second guest star, Jeffrey Bayldon, playing the astrologer Organon. Now, almost all of his scenes are alongside Tom Baker, and it's a joy to watch them together. And I sort of get the feeling watching it that the two of them had a lot of fun together, being paired up in this story. I mean, because Jeffrey Bayldon could match Tom Baker pace for pace on dottiness and eccentricity. And I mean, they're just feeding off each other all the time, and it's just so good. The chemistry between them is just so wonderful. And I mean, there are some inconsistencies with Organon. I mean, it's not quite clear how long he's been down the pit, but his robes and his clothing are absolutely pristine. So, has he got a washing machine down there somehow? We know he's been feeding on scraps of food thrown down to the feature from above, but how's he managed to keep himself so clean? I mean, it must smell a bit if he's been down there a while, but never mind. Maybe the doctor's too polite to comment on that. And our third major guest star is Eileen Way as Lady Vesta's henchwoman, Madame Cavella. Now, Eileen Way, her association with Doctor Who first began in the very first story, An Unearthly Child, when she played the old cave lady, and she's the fourth of the five guest actors who played cave people in that story to go on and make a return appearance in the show playing another part. Because we had Alethea Charlton returned in the Time Meddler. Jeremy Young returned, I think, in Mission to the Unknown. Derek Newark in Inferno, of course. And then Eileen Way in this one. Leaving just Howard Lang as the only member of the guest cast of that first story not to ever return to the show. But anyway, it's Eileen Way. She's just deliciously evil in this. I mean, she actually makes it through to the end of the story alive. So, I mean, goodness knows what happens to her after the story ends. Hopefully, she's thrown in jail somewhere. But I mean, she's just sort of this. She's a very diminutive little woman, this bloodthirsty little old lady, and it's just so good. Now, overall, I enjoy this story. I think it's good stuff. But the odd thing about it, well, there are two odd things about it, both concerning Advasted, actually. And the first of these is that she gets a cliffhanger. And it's not very often that the villain in Doctor Who gets a cliffhanger where they're facing danger, but that's the case at the end of episode 3 of this, when the bandits come in with the translator device, and she realises her whole world is about to fall apart. The truth is about to be revealed about what she's done, and she goes into an absolute sheer terror, and that's when the cliffhanger comes in. I mean, the most notably famous example of previous example of a villain being in danger is the demons. I can't remember which episode. Either it was episode 3 and episode 4, the demons, when the master is in some difficulty with Azal. But anyway, the second odd thing about this Lady Vesta is she gets killed only about 7 or 8 minutes into the final episode, which means the story still has 15 minutes or so to run without the main villain. And that's a little bit unfortunate because, I mean, she is absolutely the star of the show, and everything that happens on screen after she's killed is that bit harder to care about. It feels like it's a sort of 15-minute epilogue, and the story sort of, for my money, peters out. So, although on the whole I enjoy the Creature from the Pit, I'm always left with a slight feeling of disappointment in how it ends. But anyway, overall, a good story and a nice one to have as the first Tom Baker story to be featured in my vlog. Now, it's time to randomly select the next story, and with just 5 chosen so far, I realise I've been quite lucky in what's come up. I mean, my hope for this vlog is that as time goes by, I'll get better at it. You damn well need to, mate. Yeah, I hope I get better at it. Which leaves me feeling a little bit sorry for the stories that get picked early on, because maybe I won't do them as much justice as I'll do stories later on. But I'm sort of glad that none of the big beasts have been picked on the randomizer so far before I'm semi-accomplished. But you know, obviously the stuff like Genesis of the Daleks, Caves of Androzani, Blink, Day of the Doctor. I mean, you name it. The big ones, they're all out there. They're all going to pop up at some time. But I'm not sure I'm ready for one of them yet. But obviously, if I get one, that's where we'll go. So anyway, here's my phone. It's time to bring up the random number wheel, and hopefully this is going to go a whole lot better than it did last week. And I'll just check that have I actually got the wheel showing. Oh yes. Okay. Now I've decided to hold it at an angle where you can almost see it, and let's go. Tick 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 tick. Let's see what we get. 20th century, 21st century. Will it be a different Doctor? One we've already done before. 149. That's going to be late-ish 20th century. So, I'm going to scroll down my list and we will see what we... Okay. It's going to be Sylvester McCoy next week, and I will be talking about the greatest show in the galaxy. I mean, we all know Doctor Who is the greatest show in the galaxy, but any episode of Doctor Who is the greatest show in the galaxy. But specifically, we are talking about the greatest show in the galaxy next week. So, if you enjoyed this video, please like, please subscribe, please comment. I'd love to have more comments. Please tell your friends, and please tell my friends. And I'll see you next week. Bye.